The aftermath of the uprising saw a brutal civil war break out in Syria. Up to 500,000 dead, more than half of all Syrians displaced, leading to some of the most devastating images of the decade. And from those ashes, ISIL arose, at its peak controlling around 100,000 square kilometres across Syria and Iraq. It eventually lost its stronghold.
ISIS no longer controls any territory.
He died like a dog.
But only after years of brutality and bloodshed across the globe. In 2015, Islamic State operatives unleashed coordinated attacks in Paris, killing 130 people and wounding nearly 500 others. And then, the following year, 86 people died when a truck was driven into Bastille Day crowds in Nice, heralding a new trend for attacks around the world. A car or truck was now a weapon. In 2014, the terror hit home. But ISIL didn't have a monopoly. It was a hatred of Muslims that fueled the 2011 Norway terror attack, which saw 69 people killed by a right-wing Christian extremist on Utøya Island. White nationalism surged, seeing attacks on mosques and synagogues. And this year, an Australian white supremacist opened fire in 2 Christchurch mosques, killing 51 people. But a grieving nation refused to be broken.
They were New Zealanders. They are us.
A bolshy new breed of leader emerged, cashing in on the chaos.
We will build a great wall along the southern border.
We have to build the wall. They're rapists.
A lot of it is fake news, I hate to say.
What you read, if it's not fake news, is true.
Trump rewrote the rule book. Boris borrowed from it, while their respective countries tore themselves apart. Putin, Erdogan, Duterte, Brazil's Bolsonaro marked a pivot to strongman rule. Kim Jong-un flexed his muscle, but their strength all dwarfed in comparison to president for life of the next global superpower. As the West spiralled, China rose, expanding its power and influence through a $1 trillion master plan to spread its tentacles across the globe through infrastructure. The One Belt, One Road initiative.
This is not some wacky conspiracy theory here. This is happening.
When it comes to influencing its own citizens, though, the approach is more high-tech. All-seeing surveillance systems, forced facial scans, DNA databases. And China's not alone in using technology to manipulate and control.
You would have no idea that I've just pulled all of your data.
This decade saw our personal data mined and weaponised, turning democracy and our grasp of the truth on its head.
A full-service propaganda machine.
And all that was made possible by our increasing reliance on technology for absolutely everything. Want a date? There's an app for that. How about a meal, a lift, entertainment? Your every need or desire is at your fingertips. And with that global connection comes power. The power to start a movement with a single tweet. #MeToo.
If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write "Me Too" as a reply to this tweet.
The response to that phrase, first coined by activist Tarana Burke, was explosive. Survivors sharing their stories as some of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry faced a reckoning.
Stop the violence! Stop the rape!
Women declaring time's up on the culture of sexual assault and harassment that had been tolerated for decades.
The new day is on the horizon.
Around the same time, a new movement was brewing, courtesy of one gutsy teenager.
We know what is at stake and we will never give up.
This was the decade climate change came home to roost. 2019 marks the end of the hottest decade ever, with 7 of the 10 hottest years on record, and the side effects of the climate crisis are getting harder to ignore.
The continent is suffering under a second record-breaking heat wave.
Locals and tourists flee the path of monster cyclone Yasi.
It is the first Category 4 to hit there in nearly a century.
Townsville's main streets now raging torrents.
Farmers are struggling with the worst drought in more than 20 years.
Sydney has been choking on smoke today.
2 homes have been lost in the catastrophic bushfires burning through South Australia.
After 10 years of rising global carbon emissions and 10 years of relative inaction, pressure is building on governments to act.
What do we want? Climate action! What do we want now?
But with cities, businesses, individuals and especially children across the globe now taking the threat seriously, there may just be hope for the decade to come.
Stop!
You must be utter idiots!
Us kids need to lead on climate change because the adults are failing.